A hero's journey doesn't end with a single battle, especially when a greater evil stirs in the shadows. After King Arden reclaimed his throne, peace seemed close at hand. But in truth, the shadows from the north were only beginning to rise. Who would stand by Arden's side when the final battle comes? And could the kingdom's salvation come from an unlikely hero? Or would darkness swallow them all? Stay tuned as we dive into the epic conclusion of the Throne of Fire saga. A few months had passed since King Arden reclaimed the throne. In that time, he had rebuilt much of the city, its people finding solace in the familiar routine of daily life. Yet, despite the apparent tranquility, a sense of unease lingered in the air. Whispers echoed through the marketplace, carried on the wind from distant lands. Tales of a gathering storm in the north, where an army of shadows was amassing. One evening, as the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the castle hall, King Arden sat heavy with thought upon his throne. Around him, his loyal knights, Commander Darius and Sir Balin, along with Princess Lyanna, his daughter, stood in somber silence. They had gathered at the king's summons, each with questions that mirrored the growing unease within the kingdom. "We cannot rest," Arden finally spoke, his voice firm despite the turmoil in his heart. "I have received word that the Shadow Army is moving. They are passing through the mountains, coming closer with every day." A chill swept through the hall, palpable as the approaching winter. "My king, the soldiers are ready," Commander Darius replied, his voice echoing the steely resolve that had made him the king's most trusted advisor. "But I cannot help but wonder about the Dragon Lord Zoram. He is a force unlike any other, but his trust in mankind is shattered after the siege." Princess Lyanna, her youthful face etched with concern, stepped forward. "Father, what does this mean? Are we to sit idly by as the Shadow Army approaches?" Her voice rang with the spirit of her late mother, Queen Isolde, a warrior queen renowned for her bravery. Arden turned to her, a mixture of pride and sorrow in his eyes. "Lyanna, your place is here in the castle, not on the battlefield." His words were laced with the burden of responsibility, a king's duty to protect his heir. "The throne won't protect us," she retorted, her chin held high, echoing her mother's spirit. "Only blades will." She drew her sword, the polished steel reflecting the flickering candlelight, a symbol of her unwavering resolve. Arden sighed, knowing the stubborn streak that had always defined his daughter. There was no reasoning with her when her mind was made up. Yet, despite his worries for her safety, he saw in her a reflection of his own past, a younger version of himself, unburdened by the weight of the crown. Meanwhile, away from the castle, deep within the cavernous belly of Mount Cinder, a disturbance was brewing. The dragon Zoram stirred from his slumber, his colossal form shifting restlessly within his lair. Flames danced around him, mirroring the turmoil in his ancient heart. For centuries, he had watched mankind, first from a distance, then up close as they carved out their kingdoms on the land that had once been his own. At first, he had seen them as curious insects, their lives fleeting and inconsequential. But over time, he had come to respect their resilience and adaptability. He had even forged bonds with some of them, particularly with King Arden, who had shown a respect and understanding for the dragons that had been rare among men. Yet now, with the Shadow Army approaching, Zoram felt a primal fear grip his ancient heart. These were not the forces of any king he knew. Their very presence shook the foundations of the mountain, vibrating through the earth and into his very bones. And when they came for him, he knew they wouldn't be asking for his help. They sought only to control him, to use him as a weapon in their endless wars. But before he could retreat deeper into the protective embrace of the mountain, a familiar voice echoed through the caverns. "Old friend," the voice boomed, echoing with authority and a hint of desperation. "The kingdom needs you once more." It was King Arden, his voice carrying across the miles, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. Zoram snarled, his breath forming clouds of steam in the cavern's oppressive gloom. "Humans never learn," he rumbled, his voice echoing with centuries of frustration and weariness. You call on me only when you are desperate. Arden pressed on, unfazed by the dragon's ire. This is not just mankind's war, Zoram. The Shadow Army will devour us all. Even your mountain sanctuary won't protect you from their ravenous hunger. Silence filled the cavern, broken only by the crackling flames and the pounding of Arden's heart. Finally, Zoram let out a long sigh, the sound like the wind whistling through a cavern. Very well, he conceded, his voice echoing with the weight of ages. I shall ride the winds of war once more. With that, he rose to his massive wings unfurling, blotting out the meager light that filtered through the mountain's cracks. Flames roared, painting the cavern walls in hues of orange and red as Zoram prepared for flight. That night, as the last embers of daylight faded and the first stars began to glimmer in the inky expanse above, a dark tide began to rise in the north. It snaked through the valleys and over the hills, a silent, sinister wave on the horizon. At the edge of town, atop the castle walls, King Arden, Commander Darius, and Princess Lyanna stood watching. The first to speak was Darius, his voice a low murmur against the backdrop of the encroaching darkness. They are here, he said, his gaze fixed on the horizon, where a faint glow was beginning to take shape. And indeed, there they were, the Shadow Army, their numbers as vast and their ranks as rigid as those of a nightmare. Red eyes glowed like malevolent stars amidst the darkness, and a chilling silence hung about them, broken only by the rhythmic thud of their march, which reverberated through the very foundations of the castle. Lyanna, her hand gripping her sword, whispered, "This feels like the end." Darius, ever the stoic soldier, raised his sword, its polished surface reflecting the faint starlight. "Or the beginning of a new legend," he countered, his voice ringing with quiet courage. King Arden, his features etched with the weight of his lineage and the gravity of the moment, raised his own sword. "Soldiers, stand with me," he commanded, his voice echoing across the silent courtyard. "Whoever stands today, their names will live forever." As if in response to the king's call, a deafening roar tore through the night. From atop the castle wall, Zoram, the dragon, launched himself into the sky, his silhouette a burning question mark against the crimson backdrop of the setting sun. Flames erupted from his nostrils, searing the night as he dove towards the oncoming horde. The battle raged that night, flames and steel painting the darkness with vivid strokes of crimson and silver. The fate of the kingdom hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of a blade, the outcome uncertain, the cost immeasurable. And as the night wore on, the shadows seemed to grow longer, the darkness deeper. The battle continued into the following days. As the sun rose and set, painting the sky in hues of both hope and despair, the question of who would claim the throne remained unanswered. Would it be Arden, the beleaguered but steadfast king? Would his daughter, Lyanna, rise to become a new legend? Or would the darkness prevail, ushering in an age of shadows? As the saga of the Throne of Fire draws to a close, one thing is clear, the battle for the throne is far from over. Who will emerge victorious? The answer lies in the hands of fate and in the hearts of the heroes who dare to dream of a better tomorrow. Join us next time as we unravel the final chapters of this epic tale. Until then, may your swords be sharp and your spirits stronger. The fate of a kingdom rests on the choices we make today. Are you ready for the final battle? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts echo with every like and share. Together, we'll navigate these perilous times. Remember, the darkness may seem overwhelming, but even in the deepest shadows, hope flickers. Nurture that flame and let it guide you.